Good to see everyone today. As you heard at the end of session, we announced to the members that the civics curriculum that we gave to them on opening day, which is the first civics curriculum created by a state legislature anywhere in America, here by the Florida House, was approved by the Florida Department of Education. It'll be available for fourth graders. It's pretty exciting. I think over the summer, we took a look at the civics curriculum as it relates specifically to state government. We're kind of shocked at the lack of materials that were available to school-age kids. The House staff did an amazing job putting this together, compiling it with teachers. We're excited about it, excited to get into classrooms. Of course, the big news of the day here on the House floor was the redistricting bill. I think Chairman Leak did an excellent job. Yesterday, we walked through the state. Portions of the state were broken up. We went through the maps, offered it up for the members of the chamber to answer questions, ask questions about the specific districts. And of course, as you saw today, it passed and is on its way back to the Florida Senate. With that, I'll take your questions.
Speaker, I just wanted to know if you had a comment on the story I sent you about the Medicaid children who are at risk of losing care. I know one of the providers had reached out to you about it through a letter. So I was just hoping to get your comment on what happened.
I didn't have a provider that reached out to me. I had a constituent who reached out to me, I think, who had talked to a provider. So what we had done was, like we do with other constituents, we got in touch with ACA. We had got in touch with the provider, who I think was Sunshine Health, who was the Medicaid managed care company. They've reached out, as my understanding, to that individual and have tried to rectify that situation. I sort of asked the bigger question, which was, what's the issue here? What the way it was explained to me, that there was a contract glitch that had some significant issues. I think that they're trying to address them. We've also spoken to Sunshine Health, and they seem to be on top of it and trying to make sure that this doesn't happen again.
In the Senate Criminal Justice Appropriations Committee, prosecutors and public defenders are asking for more money for salaries. They're saying that they're in crisis. They can't recruit, they can't retain. What do you support in terms of salary? They're asking for about $15,000 more as a base.
Well, they're right about recruitment, and they're not alone, though. I mean, the reality is that is true across the board. You look at the individuals who are taking care of the disabled. Huge problem in recruitment, huge problem in retention. The salaries in the marketplace have gone up, wages in the marketplace have gone up. It's making it harder, whether you are taking care of the disabled, whether you're a sheriff's office and you can't get new recruits, whether you're a state attorney or a public defender or the Department of Corrections. This is something we are seeing across government, across the economy. It's going to continue to be a problem. I think what evaluation we have to make in the next few weeks as we roll out the House budget this week and then in the next couple of weeks in conference is where's the best investment for the taxpayer. So you take a state attorney, for example, their starting salary is $50,000 because I think of some of the conduct of your private law schools. The average state attorney is coming in with $180,000 worth of student debt for a $50,000 a year job. By the way, I put most of the blame on that on our law schools, who a lot of them use it as an absolute cash cow to bail out undergraduate campuses on the backs of students who don't realize that they're going to be graduating and making $50,000 a year. So the issue is going to be, we can make an investment there. We just raised their salary to $50,000 2 years ago. But the question we have to ask ourselves is, where's the money going to have the most benefit? I think for me, what we've done is look at state workers from the context of inflation. The reality is we have not kept up with inflation for our state workers. So we're looking at what's that percentage. I think it's somewhere between 12 and 14%, and how much of that inflation gap can we make up in this fiscal year to help them do their job.
How disruptive or not is the governor's legal intervention in the congressional maps?
I don't think it's disruptive at all. I think there's a lingering legal question from the part of the governor. He's exercised his constitutional authority under the Constitution to ask for an advisory opinion of the court. We expect that the court, understands our time frame and the fact that we have a timetable here that we want to meet. I expect they're going to act quickly one way or the other. Either they're going to say they're not going to answer the question, or they are going to answer the question and provide us that answer timely.
Given that time frame, should he have asked before now?
Well, I think it's kind of always easy to Monday morning quarterback everything, right? But I think the reality is it's kind of hard. I think even for members, right, who live in the political process, they've run for office in districts. It's really hard to see this until you see a map that's on paper, and you can really evaluate the districts and what it means for communities. The governor obviously had an issue and a concern based on, I think, the North Florida district that he wanted to get a specific legal question on. I think that it was appropriate for them to ask that question to the court. I think it's actually very helpful for us to understand that, and the more clarity we can have on that point prior to addressing the congressional map, means that we are going to have a legally compliant map, which is our goal from the very beginning.
You say Monday voting quarterbacking, but you need these maps ASAP, right?
No, I mean, we have several weeks left of session. We got plenty of time to get them done. We want to get it right.
But they're,
right?
they're for this year.
Well, of course, they're for this year, but we want to get the maps right, and so I think the governor wants to get them right. So the question is, we've all sort of got to get out on the same page in order to make that happen in the next several weeks, and we're committed to doing that.
Jumping around topics a little bit, the Senate's going to take up a bill that would mandate hearing coverage for hearing aids for kids. Passed both committees that it was in unanimously, but it hasn't been heard in the House yet. Why not?
I don't know the bill you're referring to. I haven't seen it.
On a similar shifting topics, a criminal justice bill dealing with juvenile court fees. I was curious if you had an opinion on that. I know it's not.
Yeah, I was quoted in your article about it. You asked me that question, and I stick by what I said to you in the original article, which is when you commit a crime, there's a cost associated with that crime. Someone is paying. First of all, if you victimize someone and you broke into their house and you stole their stuff, have you given it back? If you haven't given it back, should you have to pay that person back, or should you get away with it entirely? And really the premise of that article was that we should allow juveniles to get away with it entirely, that they shouldn't have to bear a cost. And my concern is when you have a justice system, my number one concern is for the victim. Who's the victim of the crime? But in addition to the person who had their stuff stolen, the other victim of the crime is each one of you. Every time a criminal case is filed in the state of Florida, it is the people of the state of Florida versus the defendant. So those people of the state of Florida are bearing a cost. They're paying for the prosecutor that you mentioned who's not getting paid enough. They're paying for the public defender who's in the courtroom. They're paying for the judge. They're paying for the probation officer. They're paying for the bailiff and the court reporter. All of that has significant costs associated with it, and the taxpayers are paying. So my question to those individuals are, what are they doing to help recoup the taxpayer of what they have spent, or the victim, and what the victim has been taken away from them? That should be their primary concern.
Could I ask about the budget?
Is PIP reform important this year?
Look, we liked PIP reform last year. We passed it. There's conversations still happening about it. I know Representative Grawl has been working on it, so we'll just have to see.
There's an immigration bill that will be coming up tomorrow, I believe, in the House, and 2/3 of it has been dealing with a sanctuary city law that a federal judge has said is unconstitutional, and it was tinged with discriminatory motives. What do you say about another effort?
Are you talking about the ICE holds?
The sanctuary city.
Yeah, I don't think that court case had to do with the ICE holds. In fact, I think a lot of sheriffs, had come to agreements with ICE. There was a big announcement. Can't remember if it was 2 years ago now. Sheriff Gualtieri and Pinellas played an active role nationally of working that out, to making sure that they were in active communication with ICE. I can tell you, having experienced being in the courtroom with people who may not have been legal citizens of the United States, it's very difficult to be cooperative with the federal government. They wouldn't answer phone calls, they wouldn't get back to you. So I think that they've tried to iron that out, and I think that provision in that bill has helped to codify that for maybe the individuals who aren't part of that agreement.
Senator Hudson presented a strike all yesterday regarding elections, but I noticed that it doesn't have a companion yet in the House. Do you guys anticipate taking up largely what the Senate is doing, or?
I can't tell you I've reviewed everything the Senate's doing. I can tell you we anticipate doing an elections bill.
Speaker, going back to the court system real quick and the cost and stuff. There are a couple different bills where this session that use the court system as sort of an enforcement mechanism, where it's like, I think, parents can sue school boards and stuff like that if they're not following different stuff, and it's been in a couple different bills. Are you, worried or concerned at all that this will spawn a bunch of lawsuits? And I think we're sort of backed up from COVID already in the court system.
I'm not sure what that has to do with court fees, but as it relates to...
Segue to my question.
That was a rough segue. All right, yeah, it's okay. It's all right. It's early. It's like first day on the floor. I get it. Look, the courts are backed up because they were closed for as long as they were closed. We don't want them to get back further, but the idea that the bills that allow limited enforcement mechanisms when people break the law as it relates to our children is not something we're willing to forego to make sure that there's never a court case in a court system. There are certain priorities when it comes to the justice system as far as I'm concerned. One of them is the number one promise of government, which is to keep our people safe, which means the opportunity to prosecute criminal defendants for the wrongdoings they have, for people to seek civil redress for the wrongs that they've done to them. Certainly one of those things could be what people do to our children. So I don't foresee that as a barrier for us to do things that empower families and parents.
The House and Senate committees today approved a bill that would allow public hospitals to convert into private nonprofits. I was told that that's a fix kind of by staff because a lot of public hospitals were coming to the legislature after the Halifax Supreme Court ruling few years ago. They wanted to all change their charters so that they could expand, and I was told that staff actually proposed this as like a universal fix.
Yeah, staff doesn't propose bills, so that's not true. In fact, I'm happy to take some level of ownership in that. I think they're probably responding to me.
Okay.
Over the last year and a half or so, many people have come who were part of, government-run hospitals, for lack of a better term, that wanted to expand outside their borders. Obviously, the House took an active role in repealing, CON. So they wanted to, be able to go outside their borders. My concern was, in doing that, was that they were going to take government taxpayer dollars and use that to compete in the marketplace. My second concern was they wanted to, in some of the cases, to take with them their sovereign immunity outside their borders. I thought both of those things were wildly inappropriate, and that if they wanted to go outside their borders and be in the marketplace, they should have to do it not with taxpayer money to fund their enterprise, and that they should part with sovereign immunity for the new facility or hospital because it wasn't part of the original deal. So, I'm not suggesting that that bill's going to happen or that we're going to pass it, but I do think that's something that, when asked by the advocates, I was, very direct about.
Do you think it puts low-income patients at risk, though, for not getting the care they need?
I think what puts patients at risk is not being able to get care. And one of the things that the House has been very particular on is that making sure that we're opening up the marketplace as much as possible. That we're opening up, access to nurses, to practice. You remember the criticism that the House got when doing that was that, this isn't going to be safe. It always has to be a doctor. I think we all know who've been to a Walgreens or a CVS that that's not true, that an ARMP can give us great and excellent care, particularly in rural communities where there's not access to primary care doctors. So, I think that we want to make sure that there's access, and the best way to do that is a competitive marketplace.
Last
Christine.
question.
We'll go Christine. Go ahead.
Thank you. Well, I actually have two questions. I wanted to ask you about your data privacy bill, but then I know you're not expecting this from me. I wanted to ask you about Representative LaMarca's college athletic bill that would tweak how the NCAA stopped, to tweak the law after the NCAA stopped all regulation.
The first one was
Data
privacy. I'm in the same position. I know you've written a number of articles where I've been quoted on data privacy. We want to protect Floridians' data. We want to do it in a real way. Those things are still on the way. Representative is carrying the bill, has been moving it, working with it. We're trying to get it moving in the Senate, so we're just going to have to stay tuned.
And then the college athletes bill, paying them?
I haven't really paid much attention to it, to be honest.
I know a lot of people are interested in it.
Yeah, I think to a certain extent it's like, it's like a race to the bottom in college sports, right? Like how many sports cars can we put in the hands of 18-year-olds? So I'm not super excited about the topic, I guess.